All right, good evening. Welcome to All Outdoors with Muck Simons. I'm Muck Simons, and of course, my partner Darren Wandy. Tonight, we have a very interesting guest, a fellow that Darren and I both know. He was the main speaker at the Parkland Outdoor Show and Expos banquet a few years back when we still had the show before COVID hit. Uh, he currently hosts two TV shows, Rush Outdoors and World of Rush Outdoors on the Pursuit channel. Tim also does seminars. He does goes to outdoor expos. He opens a lot of stores for retailers and stuff like that. We got Tim Andrus. Tim's been a long time member of Realtree Outdoors, and hopefully we can get him to tell him the story about that. Thank you,
Yep.
Tim, for joining us tonight. And we're going to be talking about deer and turkey and all kinds of things.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I guess we should probably tell everybody this is Tim's first Zoom ever.
Mhm.
So we'll get
Thanks
that out
for
of the
embarrassing.
way. We'll get that out of the way.
It
It's only
is.
been, it's only been a whole year in COVID, Tim. So you might be one of the very last people alive that didn't
Well,
have the Zoom.
I wanted to make sure everybody got through it first before I stepped down there, and I didn't want to, take control of everything.
How
It
does
wasn't that hard because when Karen set it up for me, it was pretty easy.
how does it how does
The
it how does a
button was
guy
on.
how does a guy that's made a career with Realtree and has a couple of shows of yourself never done a Zoom before? I would just can't imagine that.
I don't know. I do everything on my phone. I do emails. I do everything. I could have done Zoom on it, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna do it on the computer here because I got to learn how to do it. But I do everything on my phone. I mean, even on my emails, I don't use my laptop for emails anymore. I use my phone, and I'm just accustomed to it. So I mean, this is the next step. So I'm caught up to 2021.
Yeah,
So,
good.
so Tim, why don't you give us a little bit of background? When you and I spent a couple hours together on the ride home from the show, when you're up here doing the Darren's Parkland Outdoor Show and Expo, you kind of
Yeah.
filled me in on where it started with back with Realtree, and how you got into your own stuff like that. Because I thought that was pretty interesting how you got started, and I actually told somebody your story at work the other day about because I'm kind of I love the hunting industry and I like telling stories and stuff. And I told your story about, how you got on with Realtree and stuff like that. And I thought it was so super interesting.
Yeah. If I had a dollar for every time I told that story, I'd be retired. Why I'm retired, but I'd be even more retired but I'm pretty, I just signed my 25th contract with Realtree like a month ago. And for everybody who didn't know, I back in 1996, Realtree used to have a magazine that they put out in the spring and they put out in the fall, and the springtime would be turkey and bear hunting and a little bit of fishing in there. Fall would be your regular stuff, and it was in the fall issue that they put out in '95 that they were looking for pro staffers, which I thought was odd to have in a magazine, but it was like considered a local pro staff where you worked like in your own, I'd be here in New York, Western New York. Um, so I applied to it, and that was before emails, before Zoom, and I had to write a letter, and then I had a resume, and I'd never written a resume. I'm a farm boy. I grew up in a small town farm. At the time, I was working in Mucknose and law enforcement there in New York here, and I'd never did a resume before. So I wrote down I like to hunt and yada yada yada, and I'd written one article for a hunting magazine just out of.
Oh, do we lose him?
Looks like we lost him.
I'm just gonna pause.
Anyway, sorry about that. So, like I said, that after a while into it, like a month later, I got a letter back from the one that I sent in saying that they're overwhelmed and they were only going to pick like six or seven guys. And about a month later that, I got a letter saying they picked me. And back then, you didn't get, they didn't send you all over. You worked like local stuff in your local area. And it was back when they had VHS tapes. We weren't running DVDs then. So they gave me like the Monster Bucks DVD and All Stars of Spring, and I would go like to a local little small mop pop store or a Walmart. There was no Cabela's or anything like that out here, and that's how it all started. And then a couple of years I tried doing more events. They had the more events you did, you got points to win a trip down to Realtree Farms in Georgia, and I always would get second place, and I wanted first. And then one day the Cabela's catalog came up, and they were opening up a store in Dundee, Michigan. So out of the blue, I called the girl and said, "Hey, is there any chance you need a hand with that? You know, it's a big event." And she said, trying to be nice. And she goes, "No, that's for the big dogs, Tim. That's, I'm way down here." So I'm like, "No, I get it." And she's, "By the way, it's not next weekend, it's the week after." I'm like, "No, I got the catalog right here. It's next weekend and the weekend after." Put me on hold. She called me back and she said, "Oh my God, we thought it was only one weekend. They didn't have anybody for it." So she said, "Can you go?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She said, "How far of it?" I'm like, "I have no clue." She goes, "You gonna drive or fly?" I said, "Well, I wasn't gonna spend my own dollar. I didn't know they were gonna pay for it." So I drove out. It was like a 7-hour drive, and it was my first paid event for Realtree. And after that, I think I did 25 grand openings for Cabela's after that. Of all their stores, I did all over the country for them. I did fall events, spring events, and then I wasn't exclusive to Cabela's. I did Bass Pro Shops. I did mom pop, wherever Realtree wanted to send me. And that's when the industry was really going, and it was great. I mean, it was really fun.
You
You know what?
you told me the story though. When you first got on, you didn't get paid. Is that correct?
Correct.
You got free
I got
camo
a
or something.
box of clothes, and I got a box of clothes in the spring and a box of clothes in the fall, and I thought that was it.
That's
But I
just
had
a,
that shirt that said back then it said Team Realtree and my name on it, and that was like, I wore it toward a church on Sundays. No, I shouldn't have. I mean, I was really proud of it.
Yeah.
So,
You know,
and then go
one
ahead.
thing, Tim, just being in, around the industry, doing the show and going to some of the events and stuff like SHOT Show or whatever. Um, 25 years in the business is a very long time,
I'm
and
pretty proud of it.
not not insulting you at all, but for somebody who's able to stay with basically one company, that is that is pretty amazing because people jump ship and they do this and shows close and companies close, but 25
Yeah,
years with the same company not only says a lot about you, but it says a lot about Team Realtree and the
yeah.
organization, right?
They've been, um, they've been great. I remember being at an event with Bill was there with Tyler, and Tyler was like maybe 8 or 9 years old, and they had to leave to go to a little league practice. And I saw Tyler last year, or not this year, the year before, because of COVID, the ATA show, and he always comes over and we talk, and he still remembers me walking with him back to the car there, and of course, every other brother wanted to stop and talk to his dad, so I was with Tyler, so it was pretty cool. And it's funny, I had oh God, maybe like 10 years into it, I had another camouflage company, I won't say who, approached me and offered me a pretty big deal there, and I told them thank you, but I couldn't look at myself in the morning in the mirror, because I'd done at that time, I'd gone so far, been places that I'd never been able to do, coming from a little small farm town of like 1,500 people. I never could have done any of the stuff that I'd done. I'd meet the people that I'd met, and I kind of felt, you know, Realtree was responsible for it. So I said, no way.
well, you think about uh, I think we're getting some feedback on your mic there, Tim, but
Better now.
yeah, um, I think back to when the industry was just taking off, like the name Realtree was attached, to all the big venues. Like I remember back in 2003 when I went to the World Elk Calling Championships, it was sponsored by Realtree and
Yeah.
and them, and just it, it had and it still does, but it had so much credibility, like just the
Oh,
um
it's a big name still to this day. I mean, every year, I mean, the industry's changed a lot. I'm sure both of you know that over the years you've seen it, and really it's about this big, the circle. Um, and for the most part, it's all good guys. I mean, there's a few. I mean, everywhere you go, there's going to be that one. But I've been very fortunate, and I don't know how else. There's no other word I can say. Lucky, fortunate, blessed. That all doesn't cover, and I just love it. I mean, I did, like I said, when I signed my 25th contract, I had something on Facebook, and I couldn't believe the response that I got on that. And the best one that I got out of all the comments was from Bill's son Tyler, said, and many more. After I said
Oh, that's
25 years,
awesome.
Yeah, so it's pretty
What
impressive.
were your duties here?
I just did. I was like, people get sometimes, confused, not confused or misled. Sometimes pro staff people think that you're better than their person, and I never looked at it. I look at it as a promotional thing, and I was like a PR person for them, is how I looked at it. I'm like I've spoke at many events. I mean, like the one that Darren had, that big one there, and which was till this day is still my biggest one. Amount of people. I mean, the attendance was what, close to 500 people, I think.
At the banquet? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, at the banquet was, yeah, but the show itself is, depends on the year, 8,000 people come through the door in
Yeah.
2 days, basically. So
So the I really enjoy, and I always tell people all the time that, when I'm up there talking about deer hunting, and I tell them, I said I could sit and tell someone in the crowd audience, tell you two the best way to kill a big deer. And no matter if I'm right or wrong, us guys are all alike. You're going to go back out next fall and do the same thing you've been doing the last 20 some years. But yet, some people like to listen. And then to me, when you speak, I don't like to, because you can sit and say how to hunt deer in the pre-rut, the rut, the post-rut, yada, yada, yada. And everybody's gonna do what they used to do. I change it up a little bit, try to do something, not tell them how to kill a deer, maybe to use a certain product that I believe in, like that makes it a little bit more. And some of the ones I even talk about, I'm not even sponsored by, and that's what people really took to, because I wasn't getting anything out of it. It was, some of the ones I've spoke by, I still haven't. I just, certain things that you can go out. A lot of people go out and want to have that badge or that logo on all their shirts. I'm not that guy. I like to have my basic ones we have. I mean, of course, for a TV show, you got to have so many sponsors to have a TV show to pay the bills. I can't go to like the Pursuit channel and say, well, here's a PSC bow and here's a pair of binoculars and all that. I got to have money. So, but it's fun. I really enjoy doing it. I enjoy meeting the people. I really like when I go to an event that I've been to for many years and someone come up to me with their son that I remember being there, or maybe not remember, and they have a picture of a deer, his first bird, first fish. Those to me are the best.
I find that, and I know they get this from our speakers, that from year to year, they'll be standing outside their booth or after they speak, and then, a group of people will come up and they'll talk to them. The first thing that you guys are reaching in their pocket for their phone now. It's like baby pictures, right? They're showing all their deer pictures and their trail cam pictures. And it's a real big thing to be approachable and have those stories. And I know that's what people really love, is sharing those stories. And, this deer, I've been patterning him for 4 or 5 years. And, so I picked something up in the way you're talking about scent control or cameras or whatever, like, and it just a little piece out of your presentation that was 25 or 45 minutes. They picked up one little thing up that they're going to go back and try. And I think that's what makes our show just a little bit different than everybody else's, because you can approach the speakers and you can have that one-on-one where, you're on the stage or off the stage at some of these other places, where with ours, it's like, they're there for the people, they have access to you, and then they share those stories. Next, they follow you, and they have that connection with you, and then it grows both ways, right? So I think it's really unique.
One of the most humbling experiences I've ever had, I think I told Darren this, was I've been doing elk calling seminars now for well over just about 20 years now. And I don't know how many seminars I've done over the years, but one of the most humbling things that ever happened was at the Parkland Bank, the Expo banquet. I was getting a drink at the bar, and a guy actually tapped me on the shoulder and he said, "Hey, Muck, you probably don't remember me, but I took in one of your elk calling seminars back when I first started doing them at one of the wildlife federations." And he goes, "I took your advice," and he goes, "The next season I got a nice 5x5 elk." And it was the most humbling thing, because that's exactly what the reason we do this is so that the average guy might be successful. And it's funny because I even turned around and we kind of cheered our drinks together. And I said, I'm glad you took my advice, but I said, you did one better than me, because I've never killed an elk and you've got one. So
Darren will appreciate this. When I've told the story many times. I'll be speaking at a group of 20 people. I just spoke at a Whitetails Unlimited banquet in Pennsylvania, and people ask me all the time, different places, and they said, "What's the biggest one you ever did?" And I said, "This Parkland show in Saskatchewan." And I remember that getting there. I mean, we went to the show, and then we got there and we're walking up, and I was walking with Darren and the other gentleman. I can't think of his name. And we get to the door, you can see all the people seated there, and I was like, wow, people here. And the guy goes, "Yeah, we're at 501 or whatever." And I'm like, "What?" Darren goes, "Is that a problem?" I'm like, "I guess it can't be now, can it be?" And so then we were gonna do I was supposed to we were figuring I was gonna talk before we ate dinner, and I was good with that. And then Darren came over and said everything had been kind of pushed back, so you're going to talk after dinner. I couldn't eat my meal. I just I could just sit there picking. I was a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. It was one of the biggest ones I ever spoke at. I mean, it was like 500 plus people, and I was nerved up a little bit. And then I got on there, and it just, once I get talking and I forget everything, it doesn't bother me then. But it was just walking up on there when he announced it was and I've told that story many times.
Yeah.
So
And the thing about it, those people that come to are just like grassroots, down to earth people, salt of the earth, just willing to just absorb all that stuff. And they're very kind and generous. And when we have our auction and stuff, it really, it's a really humbling event. Every year I'm like, okay, maybe this might be my last one, or this might be my last one. But when you come back at all that work that gets puts into that weekend, and then you're like, okay, now I have to start getting ready for next year. So yeah, I know the humbling experience, and that one definitely hits home for me. So
well,
Yeah.
and that banquet, there's just so many positive things that come out of that. The access to the outdoors, the money's raised,
For the kids. Yep.
the donations that people are so graciously give to be auctioned off. And yeah, like, and I mean, Darren, I've talked to you about this so many times. I mean, the talent that you bring into that show to draw the people is a direct relation to you, because those people that are coming, it's like they feed off of you when you're getting them there, because it's exactly the people that they want at the show. You don't really have a bad experience when you go to the show. And I don't know, it's just like, that's how we met Tim, was at the show. And here it's 3 years later, and Tim and I keep in touch 2-3 times throughout the year. And
Yeah. Got to do the turkey hunt yet.
I know, a
When the
stupid
border
border.
opens up. You got to wait for the border to open up. I mean, yeah, it's been, it was a lot of fun. I mean, and matter of fact, where we stayed at the show at Ken's place, Darren, his son Elliot.
Windy Acres Lodge.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I met his son Elliot, and I went and hunted with Elliot the next year with a
Oh, did
muzzleloader
you?
and killed a nice. I killed a nice buck up in Saskatchewan.
Okay. Yeah, they do.
And,
I think they do whitetails and black bears and stuff up at their camp. So
Yeah, I ended up. It was like I went for the muzzleloader season, early muzzle, and it was snowstorm hit, which is my usual MO when it comes to weather. Mother Nature doesn't like me, so the day that I shot one, we got probably 8 inches of snow, but the video was one of our most viewed upon or commented on with the snow. And to this day, if you watch the open of Rush Outdoors, either on Pursuit, there's a picture with a heavy snowfall and the buck turn on back and look, and it's from that hunt.
Oh, wow.
can somebody check that video out on your Facebook page?
Yeah,
or
if you go,
YouTube?
anybody can go instead of waiting for Pursuit channel starts for us April 1. And then our regional show here is New York and PA and Southern Ontario. But you can go to rushoutdoors.com, the website, and if you scroll right down, they'll show season 9, 8, and 7. You click on that and watch all your episodes right there.
Okay, I'll check it out.
So Tim, so you were working at Realtree. How did you transition to your own, the Rush Outdoors and the world of Rush?
When I was doing that for Realtree, I did a couple of hunts with them where they had me send a cameraman with me we did a couple turkey and a couple deer hunts. I was on monster bucks, which was back then was a big thing. the Monster Bucks DVD was a VHS and went to DVD series. That was like the holy grail. And I said, I wanted to make their TV show, and I wanted to make one episode on Monster Bucks, and I said my life would be complete for my opinion, my feeling. And I made their TV show once or twice. I was on Michael Waddell's Realtree road trips, and I made Monster Bucks twice with my deer. One with, matter of fact, both were bull kills. One in Montana, and one in Illinois. So, anyways, as I'm doing that and me traveling all over, I met up with a gentleman named Steve Gruber. He used to run Wolf Creek Productions.
Oh yeah.
And he had Outdoor America was a show that they had, and they started a new one called Deer City USA on the Outdoor Channel. And he asked me to be a part of that. So I was doing that for, I think, 3 years. And then a guy that I'd met at a show here in New York was going to start a TV show called Rush Outdoors. And he asked me, probably 2 years into it with Deer City. And he goes, we're going to start a TV show. And he goes, we want you to host it. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm on the Outdoor Channel. I mean, on I was content. And he asked again, and he asked again. And finally, I talked to a few of my friends that I value their opinion. And one said, being a host, he goes, are you ever going to be host at Deer City USA? I go, no. And he said, even if you went and did that TV show called Rush, which would have been on one channel, we were on one network here in New York, but it was on a cable network, ran across the whole state. So it was hitting like 3 million homes. Wow. He said, no matter what, you're going to have on your resume, I'll say host of a TV show. He goes, and that's got value. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good call. So then I thought about it, and I talked to Steve at Wolf Creek, and he goes, go ahead. If you're just going to stay regional, go ahead. And I'm like, now I had a little bit of the taste of it. I said, I want to go all the way with it. So we started Rush Outdoors on one channel network. And now our regional show, which is Rush Outdoors, we're on 8 networks that blankets New York State, reaches into Southern Ontario, Canada, and half of Northern PA. Runs year round, and we're filming season 10 right now of the regional show. Our national show is the World of Rush Outdoors. It's really the same content with just a different set of sponsors. And we're going to be on this season 4 or 5 we're running right now. It starts April 1.
And primarily deer, or what's your
deer? Yeah, we've had some elk, we've had some bear. I mean, I had my bear kills up in Manitoba, my deer kill in Saskatchewan. We do a little fishing. Viewers are really tough. They want, when they see fishing, they want to see fish hand over fist, and they want big fish. And even after that, they still get tired of it. Deer is number one, I think. I mean, to this day, I mean, people like the whitetail. I'm addicted to whitetail and mule deer. You're gonna probably wince when I tell you this. I've never gone elk hunting. I've been asked to go elk hunting, and I have no desire. I'd rather go shoot a 150-inch whitetail or 140-inch whitetail than an elk. And it's just, I tell people that, they look at me like, what? I'm like, yeah.
I think if you heard him whistle, you would change your mind.
I've been there. I've been there out west when they've been screaming, bugling, and basically urinating on themselves right there when I was deer hunting early season, and it was cool to watch. And it was pretty neat when I was hunting over in Saskatchewan, over on the east side. I can't think of where it was called. Swan River.
Yep, Manitoba.
Yeah.
No, in Sask.
Swan Plain.
Swan Plains. Thank you. So I'm in my ground blind in the muzzleloader season, and I'm hearing something walking. I'm like, oh, that's close. And but it sounds big. It's not like a deer walking. I'm thinking it was still before the storm came. I said, it might be a bear out. So I'm sitting there. I'm in a pop-up blind, and it's behind me, and I don't want to, turn out all my camera and everything like that because I was self-filming. So I had like a little finger, and I like pushed it through the hole, and I peeked out and looked, and I could see there was a leg, and it was elk, 4 cows. I mean, I could reach out and grabbed her by the leg. I mean, she was that close to blind, had no clue, walked on through. But yeah, my deer hunting's my favorite. I like muleys too. I mean, I shot one last year, was probably one of my favorite hunts with a bow last year, in South Dakota. And that was a big, it was the first one I shot with a bow. I've killed them with a rifle, but it was the first one I shot with a bow.
It's funny how people just, they're either really into turkeys or they have that one thing. I know there's a lot of people down south that are really big turkey guys, or
Yep.
guys who are into bears or love moose or whatever. So it's interesting that somebody who has been in the business for 25 years, that's your focus, like you're really dedicated to the whitetail, which is great, or the deer population. So yeah, that's, each their own. But yeah, it's interesting to hear that, been in the business that long, and you just prefer doing the deer stuff. So
Yeah.
Well,
And then
I've
go ahead.
tried sending you messages and trying to hook up with you, and literally one day you'll be in like Missouri or someplace like that, and then the next day you're in the Dakotas. It's crazy how much you travel around deer hunting.
Yeah, when all the years when I was working, my goal was, when I said my first year, which I waited till my second year, is I want to drive out west and just drive through all the western states and deer hunt. And I've done it the last 2 years. Last year was my best year. I drove out. I had to do a grand opening for our title sponsor for our regional show. It's called Runnings. It's a farm and tractor, and there's like 59 stores across the country. They're based out of Minnesota. They're all over. So I had to stop in St. Cloud and do a grand opening for them. But then from then on, we went into Montana in third Saturday in October. And what do we have? A snowstorm. And it was so bad in the morning, I didn't want to try to get out to go hunt in the morning. So it was a rifle hunt. And plus, where I was hunting on the river bottom, I didn't want to blow the deer out of the field. So I waited, went out at 1:30 in the afternoon, and it was still, the wind chill was 8 below. I get my pop-up blind, and an hour and 5 minutes later, shot a buck, and was pretty happy about that. Left there, went to South Dakota, shot one with a bow, a 5x5 with a bow. Left there, went to Wyoming, shot a 5x4 whitetail, nice one, chocolate horn, like a Canadian deer. And then went to Nebraska, and the wheels fell off. I couldn't shoot a deer to save my life.
How are you planning these hunts? Are they are you planning them as you go, or are they long planned in advance?
Yeah, it's a year-round deal for me, and I pretty much do all do-it-yourself stuff. So I do a lot of homework, finding private land to get on. And over the years now, I've been out so many times. The place I hunted in Montana, I haven't hunted in 20 years. It was the first place I ever hunted in Montana, and I went back there. The reason I left is because he went to what they have in Montana. It's called walk-in hunting. So it's public hunting. So the person has to show up the ranch in the morning at, like, say 6 a.m. and you have to sign in, and after it hits a certain number, that's all it's allowed on the ranch for the day. And the rancher gets paid so many dollars per each hunter for each day, just to keep hunting going in that area. So when he went to that, I didn't want to deal with that, because I just want to have it to myself. I was kind of spoiled. And then the place I was hunting in, about an hour away, that I fell into the gold mine of a place to hunt, and an outfitter came in there and outfitted up. Matter of fact, he opened up the gate for me when I was leaving. I should have known there's something wrong. I was closing the gate because there were still cattle out. I had my deer in the back of the truck, and he was there. And he was, "I'll get the gate for you." And it's a nice guy, And I looked, and then he had all guys all oranged up in the truck, and I'm like, And he asked me where I was hunting. I'm typical. They want to make sure you know who the landowner is, and so I named the name of the ranchers. And he's like, "Oh," he goes, "that's a great looking buck there." And the guys got out and looked at it. And then I left, and then I find out when I go to re-up that he came in there and leased the ground up.
Oh, it's too bad.
Yeah, it happens. It's not the first time it's happened.
So how many states have you harvested deer at? That's quite a feat.
I'm trying to think. I used to have it on Realtree's website at one time, how many states I'd hunted in provinces. And I think maybe, I can't, I'm guessing, I think maybe I'm like around maybe 25 states. The only provinces I haven't hunted in is British Columbia and Alberta, and help me out here. What am I missing here? I hunted in Newfoundland, New Brunswick, or Nova Scotia. I haven't hunted in,
Okay.
but I've done, like I said, Newfoundland, New Brunswick, Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and then it's one of these days I'm gonna make it to Alberta and
So we got
BC.
lots we got lots of connections out there, so there's
I
some pretty good
I
hunting out there.
just I've been to Calgary. I've been to BC. Karen's son lives in North Vancouver. I was telling Muck, and I've been there twice. Beautiful country. Flying into it's gorgeous. But I haven't hunted it yet, so there's time though. I got a lot of time.
Yeah, it's there's definitely, we live in a great place for hunting, that's for sure. But you know, the United States, the amount of hunters that are in the United States is mind blowing. Which is, it's great for the sport, but man, is there a ton of people hunting? You know, it's just, and then to find land to go on, and it just compounds, right? So
One of the things that I use a lot that help a lot for me, I'll tell one of my trade secrets is, and a lot of them have changed. On the very beginning, when they had those Airbnbs popping up, I would pick like an area, say like I was gonna try. I can't hunt in Saskatchewan by myself for deer. I have to go through an out there. But say I could, and I would punch in like Regina, and then I'd look for places that you punch in your dates when you want to go, and you hit the map, and it shows the area. So I'd pick a place in the States, and I'm like, okay, say I'm looking at I'm trying to think for an example to use here. Like Denver, Colorado. I want to hunt in Colorado. So I click in Denver and I go on the outskirts, find the places there and Airbnbs, and I would click on it, find someone who's got a little bit of land. Some place will say hunting on a family ranch or family farm. And I'd send them a private message saying, hey, if I book your Airbnb, can I hunt your land? Some say yes, some say no. And then if I really like the area, I'll say, even though you don't have one, do you know someone a rancher is? And they help me find a piece of property. That's worked out pretty good.
So do you have to pay, or most of those what you were saying?
Trespass fee. Yeah. It used to be turkey. You still can get on some Western states turkey with a handshake and only because like with the ranchers, what they'll do with the round bales, they'll put a row of like 15 of them. They put a row of 13, and they make a big pyramid with the round bales for the cattle for the wintertime. And what happens is the turkeys get on there to get away from the predators. They roost on top of there. And then when they're up there, they use it for a bathroom. It gets inside the round bales and the cattle won't eat it.
yeah.
So that's one way. I've got on some ground where they told me no for deer, but said yes for turkey. I went there and turkey hunted, got to know the rancher, then got to deer hunted.
That happens lots out this way too, with mule deer or whitetails or even elk. They'll go into somebody's bale stack and get on top because they need to see, right? And then they go to the bathroom
Or
on
they
top
pull
of
in the
that.
center there, which pull them. They keep on pulling, and they never pull in they pull in the bottom, or they pull in the center. The ones I've seen, and then when the guy goes with the spike to lift it up, it falls apart.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, there's lots of farmers. Same thing with coyote. You know, they might not let you deer hunt, but they would like you to shoot their coyotes for you. That's for sure. So
Yeah.
So Tim, when you do your seminars and when you're doing your speaking, um, it your kind of your MO is you like to talk about you do at hunts. So what do you like? What do you speak about at these seminars? Like, what are you telling these people that they're taken away from your seminars?
Well, I like I said, I used to do like hunting the rut and hunting early season. I did one of my most popular ones was what we just talked about: how to find or doing a do-it-yourself hunt out west or the Midwest. How to find land, public land versus private land. Should I drive? Should I fly? How do I fly with a weapon? Um, and all that. And I had a system I went through, and that was really popular. Um, I did it at, excuse me, at one show, and I got a little flack. I had an outfitter come in there, and he didn't like that I was, talking about do it yourself stuff. And I'm like, not everybody can afford to
Right.
do your, I'm not taking away from your outfit, but, and that's how I started doing it yourself, because back when I was growing up, he had an Outdoor Life magazine or Field and Stream in the back. He looked at places to go, and they had like outfitting places. You would look at it. So I wrote a letter, and then I got something for a deer hunt, and it was in Montana. And, this is going back 30 some years ago. And it was like $1,500 or $1,800 back then. And I'm like, how can I think to spend that kind of money to shoot the deer I have in my own backyard? I just want to see a different country. And that's how I started doing do-it-yourself stuff.
Nice.
That was one of my first seminar I ever did for Cabela's. That's another reason too, how when I did that grand opening that Cabela's there, where I was telling you about earlier, we were sitting there and I was kind of in shell shock because I had Bill Jordan there. I had some major league football players. Jay Novacek was there, and all these people that you saw on TV. And I hear just little old Tim there, and it was intimidating a little bit. So the guy that corporate Cabela's come up and talked to Ashley, the girl I work for, and says, "Hey, so and so backed out of a seminar. Do you have someone who'll do it?" And she's like, look over. She goes, "Yeah, Tim will do it." And she goes, "Okay." He goes, "You're on in 35 minutes." Walked away. I looked at her. I go, "I've never done a seminar before." She goes, "You won't be able to say that in 35 minutes, will you?" I go, "Are you serious?" She goes, "You want to be a big boy. Now it's your turn." And I go, "I didn't know what to talk about." So what I talked about was the do it yourself, how to find places, my first few trips and things that went wrong. And people love to hear, not things went bad, but they like those stories more than, I mean, they like seeing deer get killed and watch the pictures. And I used to go to seminars, even when I was doing them, to listen to people to find out what I don't like, so I don't do the same thing.
Right.
Because a lot of guys will get up there, and I don't want to take me out, I can say any name. They're all me, I, and yada yada yada. And that to me kind of I didn't like it. So I would go there and do something that, I mean, I've been snowed in on 7 states. I snowed in Manitoba on a bear hunt in May. Third week in May, we got snowed in for like 4 days. I tell stories like that. Tell stories of the deer that I shot that I thought was a big one, and I shot the wrong deer. I walked up and I got 30 inches of deer, 30 inches smaller than what I thought it was, because it was thick brush, and I had the 2 deer there and thought I was in the right one. Those are real things that happen. And I think people like that. They can relate to that more.
Right.
And when you travel around and you do these hunts, Tim, some of these spots might be brand new to you. You might have now where you're go back to certain places all the time. But let's say it's a brand new plot of land, you've never hunted it. What you hit the ground running. You're there. What kind of stuff do you do to get
Onyx.
set up and get going?
And they're not a sponsor. One of the ones I talk about, Onyx maps, they're like the Bible to me, because I can punch in the name. I can punch in Darren's name. I can punch in, Marcus Simmons there and under landowner or the time, and it poof comes up their property, and I can bring it up and I can look at the whole topography of the whole place and get an idea where I think I want to be. But that's all changes when I get to a landowner. Say it's Darren. I'll say, "Hey, I introduce. I show up. I'm here to hunt." And they usually give you what they call the nickel tour. You hop in their truck and you drive around and they tell you the same rules, open a fence, you shut it behind you. Here's this fence. Once you cross the fence, you're on someone else's, typical, which in the beginning, when you told them you were from New York, they automatically thought you're from New York City. And I'm like, I'm by Niagara Falls. I'm in 50-minute drive from Niagara Falls. I'm in flat farmland country. And so they kind of always thought, I got a little teasing from time to time, but they would show me, and then usually I would say, "Hey, you're out here every day, tending cattle, doing your crops. What are you seeing?" And then I try to put the two together. And I used to go out, even the place that I went this year in Montana. I hadn't been there in 20 years. I got there a day and a half early. I sat two nights up in the bluff with Karen with a cup of coffee, just sitting back with a pair of binoculars and watching that river bottom there to see where the deer were coming out. Got back there first in the morning, drove up on top so I wouldn't bother them, saw where they went back in and put my blind up. So I do that, but Onyx is a lifesaver. And sometimes you it'll look great on your phone, and then you get there and it looks completely different. Or I've had one time where I hunted in Montana, the one guy goes, "You want to kill a big mule deer?" I'm looking for whitetail. He goes, "Sit on my water trough in my one pasture. About every 2-3 days, like there's a big old buck I see walking here." I'm like, "Yeah, okay." There wasn't a piece of timber taller than my waist. It was just flat prairie land there, and there was no deer sign there. And I'm like, "Yeah, okay." The day that I shot my whitetail on the bottom, we're coming out, and I look, and what's at the water trough? A monster mule deer taking a drink. Don't guide the guide or guide the ranchers usually know what they're talking about.
So most of these hunts you film, are they self-filmed or
Yeah, I do.
self-filmed?
I've used a cameraman in the past, and when we were a new show starting out, there's besides what I'm able to tell you, there's not a lot of money in TV. Unless you're branding yourself and have like your name on a water bottle or a gun or whatever. You can. I basically get to do most of my hunts for free. I get some money from the TV show. I do some events I get paid for. I do speaking engagements where I do really well, and then Realtree. Getting back, so we did cameramen, and it's tough to find a cameraman, and it's tough to find a cameraman that's a hunter, because you need a hunter needs to have a little bit of skill to know when to move, not and then when you have that guy, now you got to give up one of the prime times of the year when he wants to be hunting, and then you got to pay him, and you got to pay for his travel and all that. So we started self-filming, and we've all made blunders, and it hurts this year, and sponsors want to see the impact. They want to see that arrow striking that animal. They want to see the deer getting shot. That's what they give you their product for and their monetary for, and that's what they want to see. Bear hunts are pretty easy because you get in a tree stand and you have your area where the bait is, or whatever, and you pull back so you're covered. You look over on the screen on you're holding your gun or your bow, it's in focus. And I've got a little cord that usually is like on the tree arm, but I have it off on a cord, and I have it in my lap if I'm in a ground blind. So I don't even have to go to my camera. I can turn it on, turn it off, zoom in, zoom out. I might have to move the camera, but I have it figured out in my ground. I used to do a lot of ground blind hunting on out west. Number one, the trees are tough. And ground blind, if I have a ground blind and I don't like my spot, the next day I can move it. I'm not stuck having to go up there and take a ladder stand down and you're by yourself. That's a lot of work. You know how that is. So I use a lot of ground blinds. Home, I use a ladder stand. But that's self-filming. Yeah, it's all we do. All the guys in the show self-film.
Are you what's your flavor? Is it bow hunting, or is it rifle, or is it kind of even? Like what do you prefer?
I really like it all. Just about the time that I say I like bow hunting the most, and then when the end of the season comes by, and I have been having a tough season, the deer are staying out of range or having I like call it payback when I put that rifle in my hand. And then I like rifle hunting, but I like the what do you want to call it? Accomplishment when you kill the bow. That to me is, like this year I killed a big 5x5 with my bow in South Dakota, and watching him tip over on film was like that was my highlight for a lot of years. That was just the coolest thing to me. I did 2 trips that last year. I went in September thinking I could get on them. Didn't know much about the deer, didn't know much. I never hunted in those mule deer. Well, you guys have mule deer there. They don't pattern really like a whitetail does, at least the ones in South Dakota. And they would come out of the coulees into this farmer's field. And he had half wheat, half corn, and they were there every night, but you didn't know which one they were going to be on. And he had blinds up on each one. It was just a rancher who really liked his mule deer hunting. And so we went by trail cameras, you know, what was producing most. So I went in September and it turned hot and the deer weren't moving until after dark. So I left and he said, bring your bow with when you go out west, because my tag was so good. He goes, if the deer are better in here, I'm going to call you, show up. So me shooting that deer the first day in Montana was the best thing that ever happened, because now I had time. I drove out of my way to South Dakota just when that storm had just left. There was like 6 inches of snow, 7 inches of snow. Got there and was the deer that I shot wasn't the one. I mean, that I was filming a pretty, probably a 28-inch wide 5x5, a true giant for that area. I'm gonna say he was in the mid 180s maybe, and I had him 100 yards away, and he started walking my way, and I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna get a shot. And he followed the doe, and I'm watching him. A doe walks in right underneath my blind. I'm like 8 feet off the ground in a blind, and I'm watching her, and then the way the door opened up on the window for the blind was like a magnification. I could see her, and then I see behind her, I see the tine come in, and the buck was bumping her, and dumb Tim, so intent watching that big buck out 100 yards away. Where's my bow? Well, it was leaning against the wall, so I had to lean over, pick up my bow, put it on there. By then, he's already bumped her, so he's on her tail. He gets to 20 yards. I made a whistle. He stopped, and he was quartering away, and I got lucky and made just a shot that came in right in his last rib and went hit his off shoulder, and he went probably 100 yards and tipped over on film.
Hmm.
So yeah, that was a tough one for self-harming right there. Waterfowl is pretty tough. You got to have someone. You take turns. Like say if we were all out, I would run the camera, and whoever went boom, 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 and I'd give the camera to Darren, and then the next volley I'd shoot, and we'd give the camera to Muck, and we just go around.
You did a waterfall hunt and like you flew into Saskatoon, didn't you?
I was trying to hook one up, and then we never got together with the guys. Matter of fact, I talked to the guys that were at the show. They made me an offer to come out, and they had, I can't remember what happened. Something happened with staffing to do it. So I didn't go, but I went the year before and hunted Manitoba early season for the geese, and then I did some duck hunting and had a lot of fun.
So how many deer a year do you think you harvest on a good year?
Last year was a good year, and I shot four.
That's incredible.
Four deer. My freezer's full. I donated 1.5 of them, and then one was a bow kill, the mule deer, and the rest were rifle kills last year. It seemed like I tried to change it up for sponsors to get try to make sure I keep my like PSC as our bow sponsor. So this fall, I've got, if I draw the tag, I'll go on an antelope hunt in Wyoming, and then I'm gonna go on a bear hunt in the States here in September with a rifle, and then I'm gonna go, if I draw a tag in Montana. It all comes down to drawing the tags. That's the other tough part. You don't know. That's the part that's tough for planning. You have to plan that you're gonna have it, and then you gotta have a backup plan, because then if it's in the middle, you gotta fill that void. That's how I ended up going to Saskatchewan last time, because I didn't draw a Montana tag. So yeah, it's fun, but there's a lot of planning that goes into it.
Turkey hunting. That's so I was a guide for so many years in BC, and of course the majority of our hunters came from Pennsylvania, the eastern part of the United States. Seemed like they loved coming to British Columbia to hunt elk and stuff. And I mean, I don't know how many hunters I guided for, but it's fair to say that almost every one of them were addicted to turkey hunting. And here in Saskatchewan, or at least the part that we have here, we've got your basic upland pheasants, stuff like that. We don't have turkeys here. So every time the outfit or the hunters would tell me stories about turkeys and how, their eyesight's so good, and how exciting it is to hear them gobble and call them in. I kind of mocked them at first because I didn't take them serious about how smart they were, until I met a school teacher on a bear hunt from Montana. He was up in Saskatchewan on a bear hunt, and we became friends, and we're still friends. This is like 20 years ago now. And
Right.
uh, he invited me down, and where he lives from here is only about a 3-hour drive into Montana. I mean, that's how close we
Whereabouts
have.
was it?
Sydney, Montana. So
Oh, I've hunted there.
I went down there, and he was a school teacher, and he actually got some of his students to get permission from their parents. So that was like a hitting the jackpot, because we had permission for all this land. And I got two toms a Jake and a Tom, but I got hooked because of the way they gobble and the way you call it in. And of course, I'm a big elk hunter, so I've flown to Florida hunting them. I've only killed 2 turkeys ever, but I went to Florida. I wasn't successful, but I've got a friend that's in Nebraska, Kansas area, and he's a police officer. He keeps inviting me down, and I haven't taken him up on it. But turkey hunting, have you got your slam yet?
No, I need the Osceola in Florida, and it's been so hard to get on property because they know there's a line in Florida, and below that line is where the Osceolas are, and the landowners know that they've got the corner on the market because there's only one place to get an Osceola. So hunts are tough to go down there unless you know somebody. And I might do it yourself stuff there. I found guys that went $500 a day for a trespass fee for a turkey. I'm like, not going to happen.
No.
When I go where I'm going to Nebraska here in a month, it's $50 a day to hunt, and the guy's got 500 acres here, 800 acres here. It's all broken up, and he's got a lot of birds. I drive out. Karen and I'll drive out there, make it fun, see a little bit of the country, and you can do it on the cheap. I mean, we stay like an Airbnb. We bring a cooler full of some venison, cook on the grill. You can hunt all day long there. I don't like to do that though. You get burned out pretty quick. But it's fun. That's the fun part. But when you said Sydney, I hunted right outside of Sydney for 2 or 3 years, and then I hunted south of Sydney in Glendive, which is only an hour drive. And then this past year, I was in Miles City. It's another hour from there. Ran the Yellowstone River.
People that are listening probably don't know. Turkeys aren't real familiar around here, but there's 4 subspecies of wild turkey in North America.
Really 5 if you count the ones down in Yucatan, the one down there. But from the U.S., like in North America, you got the Merriam, the Rio, the Osceola, and the Eastern.
Right, that one right there is the one I got in Sydney.
You can kind of see 2. Maybe we can get it right there up to my shoulder. I got 2 on top right there. I think that's a Rio and a Merriam right there. I like it. It breaks up the spring. Like we're telling Darren, I'm a deer hunter. That's my. I'll be out looking for shot. I'm going tomorrow to help a friend take down some tree stands to move some things around. Here it is, March. I'm gonna go give him a hand doing that tomorrow. A turkey season in the spring, it breaks up the thing as bear season does. I like to fish. I like to go walleye fishing and bass fishing, so that breaks it up. Antelope was a new thing that I got into a few years ago with a bow, and that opens up at the middle of August, and that's pretty intense. It's something different, and I like eating wild game, and antelope is very good. It's got one of my daughter's favorite. Her favorite is moose. She told me when she was maybe 10 years old to quit deer hunting, just hunt moose after she had moose. I'm like, you don't understand. It doesn't work that way. But moose is my favorite, with a caribou second. And that's on my bucket list. Everybody laughs when I tell them, what's your one thing you want to go hunt? And it's It's going to be hurts and don't so he was and I was, I tell her whatever I was, and she passed away. It was like 5 years ago this month, and I was out there. A lot of times I'll say, "Hey, Mom, I could use a hand." So this year I was watching that big deer, and I said, "Mom, I could use a hand. I had a little luck. Can you do some talking for me up there?" And that deer came out that I shot. Came out of a coulee where the rancher was watching the sign. He said, "I've never seen a deer come out of that spot. Watch the whole thing clear behind me." It came up and I made a shot. I didn't realize I forgot about it until we were reviewing the footage. I was at my editor's house and I looked at the camera and I said, "Thanks, Mom, I need that." And I realized that, look how I forgot. I mean, it's happened so quick. So that one was probably my favorite ones. The other one was in Manitoba, bear hunting. And I was there the first night in there, and I was hunting just about where Thompson is. Just about 50 kilometers from Thompson. And first night and the bear were coming. It was third week in May, and the bear that I shot was a fifth bear I'd already seen. It was early. He tried to get in the tree with me, and when I looked at him, I could see that ridge on his head. Matter of fact, he's laying right here next to me I got his mount right here, rug right here, and he came down. He woofed and went around there, and he came back in, and I'm filming it, and I'm like, man, it is a big, for a spring bear. He was 370, and he came in, and I shot him, and he ran off, and I'm a little hard of hearing, and the wind was blowing, and there was all the jack pines around there, and I'm listening to the death moan, and I don't hear it. And I looked at the footage, and I could see the impact. He was only 18 yards away, and I shot him with a 7mm, so I know. So we have a rule. My buddies, I've hunted with my buddies' camp between deer and bear and waterfowl 13 times, and he always has a little thing to the bear hunters. If you shoot something, stay in your blind until we get there. Don't go tracking it. Don't go after it. Yada yada yada. Well, I broke that rule that night, so I got down out of my stand, went over, and where I shot him, I could see a little bit of blood. You know how they don't bleed really well with the fat, and I could still bleed. And he got into the jack pines, and now he's with those jack pines are so tight, so I'm holding back the branches, and I'm holding my rifle like this with one hand, and I'm looking down, I'm walking, and it's getting thicker and thicker, and I'm getting a little nerved up. I'm thinking, I know he's dead. And it's all that, I don't know, like spongy permafrost up there with the moss, and I hear a snap behind me, and I'm like, what was that? And I turn around and look, and on the trail behind me is a bear, like maybe 8-10 feet away from me, and it startled me, and I just let out a yell, and he popped his jaws, which I'm thinking, holy cow, it's him. He's wounded. He's going to be on top of me a second. So I shot into the ground in front of him. The moss flies up. He goes running that way, and I ran through the stuff hit me in the face. Got to my stand, climbed up it, and never got that tree until he got there. Well, Gage gets there. We go looking at the thing, go walking up, and we're following the blood trail, and there's this big divot, and the moss all blown up. And he's like, "How many times do you shoot?" And I said, "Once." He goes, "Where's your stand?" I go, "Over there." He goes, "There's no way a bullet got in here." He goes, "Almost looks like it was shot with something." And he looked at me, and I had that look on my face. He goes, "Did you get out of your stand?" I'm like, "Yeah, I did." And I was talking so fast he couldn't even understand me. I got out of the bear came in my boom, shot him, I ran, I blah blah. And he's like, "You got out of your stand?" I'm like, "I did. I broke the rule, I know." And I tell this story, and it scared me. I'm not gonna. I mean, the bear it was a young bear, probably didn't know what I was or was trekking, who knows what. And my bear that I'd shot was only 30 steps away, dead.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's probably one of my biggest stories. I mean, I've had that one. I've been lucky on some of my hunts that I've got to say I'm lucky. that I've shot on the first day in the first hour. I got probably a handful of hunts like that. And I was like, doesn't that bother you? I'm like, no. For all the hunts that go bad and you don't have any luck, on that first day, first hour, first 2 hours comes, live it. Enjoy the hunt. Shoot that, you know.
Um, Tim, Muck and I talk lots about, and we're involved lots with youth and hunting and so forth. So being with Realtree and some of your sponsors and stuff, what involvement are you with youth? And just talk a little bit about, what as a seasoned hunter and someone who's been in the gig for a long time, how important is that we get those kids out there?
Very important. We've done it. The owners of the TV show has a sportsman's expo, like the Parkland show, and it's probably the biggest one in New York State. And they get like 25,000 to 30,000 people in 3 days. And they cater it to like the youth, make specials for the youth and stuff like that. And we have like a fishing pond there that we go over and do stuff with them. And to me, that means a lot. And that's, I think, a lot of reason I think that you had me come speak at your show there is because I grew up. I didn't have a dad growing up. My mom raised me, and I didn't have no one to show me how to go out and do it. So when I got a bow from the farmer that we done one farm over from where I grew up on a farm, we didn't own it. We rented from the farmer. I bought a bow that I couldn't even pull back. It was so strong. I was a skinny kid, believe it or not, back then, and I had to work to draw that bow back. And then when I could, my friend and I would go to yard sales. And if you remember the story, I would go to yard sales and we'd find arrows like in a bucket, and we'd buy the arrows, and then we'd put broadheads on that we bought from wherever I got them, and we'd shoot, and whatever arrow shot the best, we took a magic marker and put a 1 on it, and whatever was the second best flying was number 2, and on and on and on, and that's how we hunted. And to me, that's I had my one neighbor who took me fishing a lot and did a little bit of deer hunting, or took me deer hunting. I had a guy that was a couple years older than me that was real nice that took me hunting, and then so I had a kid that lost his father when I was probably in my teens, and I just did like a payback thing. I took him fishing, and he's a charter boat captain now. And it's kind of funny. I mean, I remember going fishing with him, bass fishing with him. We've hunted together and stuff like that. So I like that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's, without youth, we won't have a sport. We have to remember them, because nowadays they're kind of caught up in this stuff right here more than they are. When I would go to school, riding a school bus on opening day of deer season, there'd be cars parked on all sides of the road. When I was going to school, it was not a big thing anymore. I mean, the numbers are down here in the States. I don't know how it is for up in Sask or Manitoba for you people, if the numbers are down for kids hunting, or.
I don't think so. I think, well, with COVID, this may be an exceptional year. There's a lot of hunters out, kind of scurrying around doing their thing. But one of the biggest things they're finding challenging now is the students that are wanting to take hunter safety, because we can't be face to face with large groups. So the big push is to do it online, and then you have to kind of hook up with one of the instructors to do your hands on. So there's been some turbulence that way. But I know in Saskatchewan they've got, for those youth hunters, they actually have a special, they can special tag, and Muck can attest that his son turned 12 last year, right, Muck?
2 years ago.
2 years ago, and they got a special tag that you can hunt multiple species. So Mike, you might want to just talk a little bit about that, because it was actually a very unique. You enjoyed it, and Ryan enjoyed it. So
Yeah,
I've never seen his mule deer that I saw on Facebook. You killed a mule deer last year, was it, or whitetail?
well, Ryan's been super fortunate. This is his 3rd year. He is turning 15 this month. But what Darren's referring to is I will give the government credit when it comes to the hunting for the kids. So if they buy a bird license, they get a deer tag with it, and then they generally, if they put in for the antlerless mule deer, the kids generally get drawn every year. Like, whereas if I apply for a mule deer tag, the way the pools work, you drop down in your pool after you get drawn. But with the kids, it seems like they, for the most part, get drawn for the antlers over and over again. And what Darren's talked about for me, the very first year that Ryan turned 12, I basically took a step back from hunting for myself, because I remember when I turned 12 and my dad was really active and took me everything that he could for, deer and birds and ducks and geese and stuff like that. So I was like, there, this day and age, like you're right, the phones and the electronics and the video games seem to have all their attention
Yeah.
these days. So I
Yeah.
was like, I wanted to make Ryan's 12th year, his very first year of hunting, so memorable that, in 20 years, 30 years from now, he always would look back. It doesn't matter what type of or where he was in the world, that he would look back and say, my dad really took me hunting that day or that year. So it started off, he got his bear with his bow, and then I put him in for the youth draw, and he got drawn for 2 mule deer. And I remember the very first time Ryan shot his mule deer with the muzzleloader. So he got 2 mule deer doe tags in the zone, and the very first one he got was with his muzzle loader, and it was really cold that day, and we had to sneak in on our hands and knees, and then he made a 120-yard shot with a muzzle loader. And I just remember the hug that he gave me after he shot that. Like, it was such a emotional
That's awesome.
moment. And then he went and got a mule deer doe with his rifle, and then he got a really big whitetail. His very first whitetail buck was a 150 class whitetail, and so he had a bit of an epic year. And this year was the very first year that he qualified for. Well, he was Super A last year for mule deer bucks, but so was I. We put in together, and we actually got drawn together, which almost never happens for a kid to get drawn with their dad that early. And so he killed well, he just got it scored at the end of the year. It's a 180 typical mule deer he got, and he made a 420-yard shot on it. Yeah, it's
He's
crazy.
wrong. Spoiled.
And I didn't even get a good meal. Mine was probably in the 170s, but Ryan was typical 180 and whatever. And the beauty thing about his was so typical, he only lost 2 inches of deductions.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so the youth hunting here is big. That year that I kind of stepped away, I don't think I even shot a deer that year, because I was like, I'm just dedicating it to Ryan this year, and it's never been about me and hunting. And now that Ryan's older, he's always the first one to get first one to get to shoot. Like, I've had a lifetime of hunting, and I do enjoy it, but my long-term goals for myself is I want to get my slamming turkeys, and I want to try to get a turkey with a bow. The problem is, here in Saskatchewan we don't have turkeys. Manitoba does, but we can't hunt them there. So I have to travel, just like you. I'm going to have to
Oh,
travel.
really? You can't hunt Manitoba?
Not for turkeys. I can for other things, but turkeys who can't, because turkeys aren't indigenous to up here. So if you do have turkeys like they do in Manitoba, it's only residents only. So
Yeah.
I know, and they have the Eastern. So this one that's in the picture back here is a Merriam, and so I got my Merriam. I'd love to get the Rio, and I tried for the Osceola. I went down for a whole week and got skunked, but the guy I was with got one, but I didn't get one.
My friend's in Texas right now hunting Rios. He got here better today. He called me today. He's down there today.
Yeah, people don't understand. Like if you like elk hunting, you would love turkey hunting, because you have to camouflage, you have to call them in, and you can't. Well, it's even harder with turkeys, because you got to be so quiet and so still. And
It's tough. I mean, that one I shot in Montana a couple of years ago, I went out to scout and where to put the blind up. The season was already open. I took my camera with me just to get some B-roll of the area, and I'm walking along, and I had brought my gun. I was just walking and looking and basically looking for what I want to do for the fall when I come deer hunt there, because I drew my tag, and I heard a bird sound off, and he was out of ways. So I kind of looked where I want to go. So I called back, and he gobbled, and he gobbled again. I go, he's on his way. And I sat down, pulled my face mask on. I didn't have it lined up right. So I was like one eye right there, and I can't move. And here he comes out there, so I'm trying to, and I didn't like the way it was. I'm trying to go up here and turn it, and then I got stuck. So my hands right there because he's looking my way, doing the old like head bob like that, and he turns, and I went like this, and it went too far. So now I got a corner of my eye, and I still shot him though, but I got him on film.
The hunters that I was talking about earlier about that were turkey hunting, they always said something. They always said if a turkey could smell you, you'd
You'll
never
never shoot
kill
one.
him. That's
Yeah,
right.
100%, 100% true. They are uncanny. I mean, some people will tell you hunting with decoys is the best thing in the world. Some will tell you they hate it. I've had good instances, bad. I mean, I've had a gobbler walk into a field and see my two decoys. I have a Jake and a hen sitting there and stop and look and turn around and I'm like, it's opening day of season. No one's messed with them. But what was wrong was the shine of the sun on them, making the decoy look funny. And I've had other ones calling there and they see that decoy and they run across a 100-acre field to get to that decoy to get shot. And there's no rhyme or reason.
So Tim, before we let you go for the evening, how can people follow you? What's your social media? If people want to try to get a hold of you for questions or what?
It's Tim Andrus is on Facebook. You can give me a friend request on there. And another one is Rush Outdoors on Facebook. We're on there and on our Instagram. I think it's Rush Outdoors TV. I should know that. You believe that, but and you can go to rushoutdoors.com and like I said, and watch on our main page. You scroll right down there and you can watch our seasons right on there. You don't have to wait for the new season to come out. You can watch them right on there. As season 10 rolls around, like after we get like 3 or 4 episodes in, our editor Brian will go there and put them on our website, so people who don't have cable, who don't have the Pursuit channel or a local channel, can go on there and watch it. And then we put them on our Facebook page as well. Now I think about it, we started doing that last year. We put some on there for people to watch.
I think in YouTube as well, right?
Yeah, we don't push the YouTube. YouTube's funny. I don't think they're really big on the hunter. I mean, some places you have to if you got the following in the very beginning, our YouTube we use it. I mean, we watch it on there, but we don't have a whole lot of follow. We don't push it because I think the algorithm is kind of, it's out of my league, but we've tried it and we're on, like the Pursuit channel has got their own version of like Carbon TV and digital there. And we're looking at another one right now. Matter of fact, we're looking at the one, before I let you go, I'll get your opinion. Wild TV in Canada. Good. I mean, we've been looking at that one. It's another audience for us. I mean, someone say Sportsman's Canada is better. I'm not going to put you on the spot. Yes, I probably should do that.
Well, Sportsman Canada is about 3 years old, Muck.
Yep.
So Wild TV's basically has been around for quite a bit longer, but I know Sportsman Canada is fairly new, but there's some, it's different. They have different programs for each, and then some are the same, right? But I think each to their own. But I know that both of those groups it's for outdoors people. It's been really good to be able to have 2 networks, and because there's different things on both networks. But yeah, the outdoor channel is fairly new to Canada compared to Wild TV. So
yeah, we were
channel.
looking at that. We were looking at the lady from, I believe she's the girl that I talked to, out of Alberta, and we had talked about it. Our numbers for the Pursuit channel, they do the Nielsen's rating to know what our numbers are like for each month. And you could tell with the COVID, the lockdown, our numbers went up. And I think for me, I had a lot of our sponsors were really, I don't, truthful about it, because I know it's how are your numbers from Pursuit channel. And I'm like, well, last April was a little bit different because it was when the lockdown started and this and that. I said, we were running 60,000+ a week viewers, and that was in the Nielsen's. I said, in all actuality, it's usually around 30. And I'm happy with 30. 60, I was really happy with. We'll see what happens this year, but we have a retiree crowd. I think we have one show. Our one of our biggest time spans is like it's a 9:30, like on a Wednesday morning. So we call it the retiree, and everything. All the guys bust my chops. They say it's my people.
Well, we had TJ Schwanke on a couple months ago. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he has a show that's on uh, called Outdoor Quest TV. It's been on for 23 years. Anyways, he's an Alberta guy, but he said the same thing, Tim. He said the majority of his viewers are the older crowd still.
Yeah, because I think we grew up. I mean, that way. I mean, these new ones. I mean, they want to watch the stuff on there, and I have this discussion a lot of time with our sponsors. When you go to a sponsor, I mean, a lot of the new guys that you're dealing for media stuff are young guys, and they want to see for your sponsor. I mean, Darren knows how it is when you have to go for sponsors, how you have to get that. You always get the, well, we have budgets and this and that, and with the TV, they want to see social media is really big, and they want to see likes. And they always say, well, TV is tough because they want to see a return on investment. There's no way to show a return on investment. And my answer to them is, tell me how a like on Instagram constitute a sale, you know? So it's tough. I mean, it definitely, I think Facebook, social media has been really good for the sport, but it's also hurt it in ways. It's a double-edged sword, I think. Social media has been for the industry. I don't like the bickering I see from people on what they've shot.
Oh,
If it's
that's
a
the absolute worst thing.
It
Sometimes
is.
social media, we eat our own, it almost seems like.
I mean, it's a guy who's sitting, it's a big joke. They'll say it's a guy sitting in his basement at his mom's house who's never probably shot a deer, mocking, it's one thing to mock a guy, that's wrong. But when you mock a kid on his first deer, whether it's a doe or a button buck, that's when it's wrong. I mean, we have to get out of that age. And that's another thing too, that our show, that we don't go out and shoot the biggest deer, the biggest elk or bear. We shoot something that, and then the girl, the Erica Pursuit Channel tells us, what's the comments they get is that it's something that a normal guy that works 40-hour blue collar man can hope to see on a weekend or get to do one trip of fall. So that's where appealing. I guess people like that. And that's who we are. I mean, all our guys that film for us, there's 8 of us on the crew, and I'm the only. Everybody else works full-time job besides doing their filming.
Yeah, I was going to ask how big your team was, because certainly you couldn't do it all.
No. Everybody has good years. Everybody has bad years. Knock on the wood. I haven't had a bad year in a few years, and I don't want to have one for a while because it's tough. And it happens to everybody. I don't care who you are. You have bad years. You make bad shots. It's not something you plan on doing, but we're human.
Well, Tim, thank you for your time tonight. It was great to just chat with somebody just like us, and hopefully that you can make it up this way again. And I'm definitely going to take you up on the turkey hunt when the border opens up.
Bring Darren with you.
Yeah,
I have actually told him that a couple of times. 3 years ago, we got offered that. My friend that lives in Nebraska, and I said to Darren, "You come with me. I'll drive down there. It's 15 hours from my doorstep, but we do it." And
it's 18 where I'm going to be going. It's 18-hour drive, and we split it up. We drive one long day, then get a room and get there the next day. And I get there. I don't like to show up the day before the hunt. I mean, I'm going to show up on Thursday at lunchtime, and doesn't open until Saturday, so I can go out, do a little scouting. I'll talk to the rancher. He'll know where he's been seeing the birds. I have a blind already out there, so that's one good thing. I'm gonna bring another pop-up blind. I've got a Maverick blind that I split with the rancher that's already put together out there, and we have a trailer so we can move it wherever. So I got that one, so I'll carry a pop-up blind with me, and we'll be good to go. So yeah. You guys, when you guys went together, you need to help find a place down here. And it sounds like you've got places, but definitely, I hope to make up to your neck of the woods again.
Yeah, we would love to have you. And the same thing, we've got lots of connections up here with real good hometown, down to earth people as well, Tim. So, if you're looking for a spot to come up, we can definitely hook you up with some good folks up this way. So
I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
All right, Tim. Well, thank you very much, my friend. Take care.
How do I turn this thing off now?
I'll help you through that.